Most people probably think of weightlifting or exercise when they hear the term reps. But what about reps in photography? Today, I'm going to tell you a couple ways that I incorporate reps into my daily routine to help my photography overall. Hey there, friends. So, today I wanted to talk to you about this practice that I do that really helps me with my photography, and I call that just reps. If you're with me on social media, sometimes you'll see I might post a story, and it's just kind of like a random or very, very common photo. And I make it a story post, and I just sometimes put like reps. So, reps is short for repetition, first of all. To me, it's important to be working in your said craft, whatever it is, whether that's photography or you're practicing for a sport or anything like that. You need to be practicing it kind of as much as possible if you want to be getting better at it, or at the very least, just more comfortable with it. So, kind of the way I look at doing reps with photography is it's kind of a little hack for me to just always be photography minded. There's a couple little things that I like to do with that, and I'm going to kind of share with you today my process for that, just kind of my thoughts and how maybe it could help you with your photography. Okay, so just a little bit of personal background that kind of got me to where I am as far as valuing these reps is so I've been in and around or doing photography for over 20 years now, okay? But obviously, as probably the same with many of you, it's not always super duper consistent, right? You don't always have a scheduled shoot or time to go out and do a walk or kind of whatever the case may be. So with just life getting busy and things like that, one thing I would get guilty of is like I've always loved photography, right? I love doing it, but I would kind of wait for an occasion to go take pictures. Versus just always taking pictures. And I know for some of you that may seem very, very non-explanatory. Maybe you just already always take pictures, you always have your camera. That's great. To me, that's how it should be. But for me, I got away from that for a long time. So what would happen is say we'd go on a trip or something like that. I'm all excited. I'm going to take my camera. I got loads of film because this was back in film days and things like that. And I have all these big plans, right? But I hadn't been being active with my camera for sometimes a long period since that last time. So what I would notice is I'd get all excited, right? And then I get my film back and the shots were just, I mean, they were okay, but they certainly didn't meet up to the excitement that I had about it in the first place. And one thing I kind of had to come to terms with that was, I guess, uncomfortable was like, that was nobody's fault but my own. So what I mean by that is I hadn't been doing much, if any, certainly not enough work with my camera, either in the form of photography itself or reading up on things or just handling my camera, making sure I'm sharp with my settings, things like that. I hadn't been doing that stuff. So in reality, it shouldn't be any surprise to me that when I get the results back, they're less than what I expected or felt rushed, or maybe my composition wasn't as good and things like that. They just weren't, I wouldn't say I was like on point. You know what I mean? One thing I made a commitment to myself for 2023 was I definitely wanted to dive more back into photography than I had been in the last couple of years. It is something that's important to me. So first of all, I wanted to be doing it more. And then I actually challenged myself to every single day in 2023, you need to either be taking a picture, editing pictures that you already have, brushing up on YouTube, handling your camera in some way, shape, or form, making yourself more familiar with the settings and the menus. However it played out, I wanted to be hands-on with photography every single day. And so far, I've done that. And in my opinion, it's made a big difference. First and foremost, I'm just out there shooting more. I've made it a priority to go on more walks and to get to more places and things like that. But where I feel like I'm actually seeing the bigger gains isn't necessarily even on those days. It's what I'm doing by having this practice of doing reps on those other days. How am I still gonna, keep myself into photography enough that I don't start losing my skills, right? Because we all know, like, if you're a golfer, you need to be golfing regularly, or your swing will be off. You won't play as good. In jiu-jitsu, we rep moves. we have to rep moves to develop reflexes. That's the only way they become second nature. So I made it a goal that I want my camera, my equipment, and just my thought process on photography to be as second nature as possible, pretty much from here on out. And so these are the things that I do to help that. So probably the easiest thing that I can do day to day and that I've been trying to do is just using my phone. Now, I understand some people, they do all of their photography on their phone, and that's cool. Some of you guys just blow me away with what you're able to create. I've always been a traditional camera person. When I grew up, I didn't have a cell phone, much less a phone that had a camera on it. So I just kind of default to, you know, my separate camera anyway, and I like that experience, so I've kind of kept it that way. But my phone is something that's always in my pocket now. Even if I have another pocket camera, if it's quicker to use my phone, cool, right? So one thing I do is every day, without fail, whether it's at work, whether I'm at the store, whatever it is, I try to find something that could make possibly an interesting photo. I'm just always looking, right? Because this is part of the reps, is you want to train your eye. When we talk about having an eye for photography, it just kind of means that you learn to see the world through your lens, as cliche as that sounds, but you're just thinking of scenes everywhere you look. So where someone is walking down the street and they're just like, oh, there's, you know, some trees, cool. I might walk down the street and go, there's 3 perfectly spaced trees with perfectly aligned shadows at a 90-degree angle to the trees, and there's 2 benches over here that are in between those. And my brain is just doing different things, right? So this really helps me with trying to develop that. And then it's super easy. It's right there in my pocket. And it also helps me work on composition because, again, I don't know what it is. It's probably some sort of a mental block of my own. When I look through a phone, I struggle with composition, to be honest with you. I don't know if it's just that I'm so used to looking through a viewfinder or, you know, at the back screen of an actual camera. I don't know what it is, but using the phone is one of the best things you can do. It's always on you. There's Lightroom Mobile, there's Moment, there's all these Snapseed, there's all these great editing apps too. So not only can you practice just getting shots on the fly, you can practice your editing too, because most of those controls, although they're not going to be the same as like your desktop version of Lightroom or whatever you use, Capture One, whatever, the concepts are the same, right? You're still going to be playing with your exposure maybe, contrast maybe, saturation, whatever it is that you like to do to your photos, you can take and do those things on a phone. So that's a great way, and it's really no excuses because your phone is always on you. So that's something that I try to do daily, and you'll see a lot of those photos in my stories. And those are the photos that are just kind of like, oh, why do you take a picture of an apple? Well, I just had my phone with, you know, on the counter while I was doing that. So I'm like, boom, here's a chance to get some reps in. Now, additionally, outside of taking pictures with my phone every day, there's kind of more informal and I guess unnecessary pictures with your actual camera. I say unnecessary, meaning that like maybe it's not something that you would post, or that you're, you know, if you're a printmaker that you're thinking is going to be a print or anything like that. But again, it gets you using your camera. Okay. So maybe it's snapshots of your kids or your pets, or maybe it's still life, objects, something in your house, right? Toy photography is huge. But the point is you're shooting something, okay? It puts you going through the paces on your camera. And that's the most important part of all of this. So find something around your house. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be something silly. Use the camera that you do have to take pictures of just whatever. It's practice, okay? And it's digital. It's not like we're shooting on film. You couldn't, I mean, you could, but you couldn't really do this with film, or I couldn't because I couldn't afford to. You know, before any kind of a digital camera, like your reps were mental. Your reps were making sure that you know your camera, and you make notes when you're out taking photos. You make notes when you get your negatives back and things like that, so you can see what you did good and see what you did bad, making notes of your settings, all of those things. We're so spoiled now with digital that you have unlimited practice, because if you screw it up, who cares? You just hit the delete button. Okay, so taking quote unquote unnecessary or bad photos, it's still helping. So like, don't discount that. I feel like I totally discounted that. We kind of get in this habit of like, well, I know my gear, I know my settings, this and that, and you know, when I'm ready to go take photos, I'm gonna be good. And I kind of fell victim to that as well, but I can't tell you how much doing this has actually improved my photography and my consistency and my efficiency. I'm not out there fumbling when I am doing stuff because I've gone through the motions, you know, literally in my living room or something like that. So use your gear whether you have an official reason to or not. Just get it out and use it. Take photos of literally anything. Trust me, if you do this enough and you do it consistently, it's going to reflect when you do get out and you're around the things that you do want to make photos of. Give it a shot. So I wanted to keep this video as short as possible because this is just kind of more of a concept. I hope you kind of get the vibe that I'm trying to get across by doing this. All I know is that before, when I was being inconsistent with my photographic practice, I was also getting inconsistent results when I did get on an occasion or a scene where I probably should have been able to get better results, if that makes sense, okay? Like I said, every single day in 2023, I've either pushed the shutter button, or I've edited old photos, or I've consumed some sort of content, either YouTube or reading. I've handled my equipment daily. For me personally, it's made a big difference. I'm getting more consistent photos. I feel like my composition is improving because I'm just keeping myself thinking in the terms of how could I make this into a photo. I'm kind of a one shot, I hit the button and I keep walking kind of guy. Again, old film habits. So I don't spray and then check my screen. I come up to a scene, I try to make the scene, and then I keep moving. So when I go back through, you know, at the end of the day or the end of the night or the next day or whatever, and I start seeing the photos and I'm like, okay, this is better, that makes me happy, and it makes me want to go out and do it even more. So the bottom line here is just make sure you're handling your gear. Make sure you're getting out there as much as you can, and when you can't, you find something to make photos of. The more you stay active in your craft, the better you're going to get. It doesn't matter what it is. There's no denying that you will get better by being consistent with it. And for some of you, maybe this is just unnecessary, or it's something that you already do, or it sounds silly or whatever, and that's fine. This is just my opinion, and of course, we all have one, so you don't have to listen to it. But I would encourage you to try it. Challenge yourself to do something related to your photography every single day. And if you have a method that you do to help you be more consistent, or something that has helped your photography game come up, please tell me in the comments, because I'm always trying to learn something new. And if you have something that has helped you, I'd love to hear about it. So I hope everyone was able to pull a little bit something from that might help them. Thank you if you stuck around and watched this video. Thank you if you're here. I want to say a huge thanks to everyone that interacted with my first video. If you haven't seen that, I did a little Digicam review, and a few of you have reached out and said that you enjoyed it. I appreciate that so much. So like I said before, if you guys are on Instagram, find me on there. I'll have my tags in the closing screen here. I would love to connect with you guys. There's been so many cool people that I've met in this photography community, and I love that. So thank you guys for being here, and I'll see you for the next one.